welcome to the Art Buying Simplified Summit. I am your host, Janelle Walters, and we understand that the art buying process can be overwhelming because there are so many different things to consider and to remember. So that is why we are here together to give you some tips and tricks so that way you can be confident and make informed decisions when it comes to your art buying. And we also want to make sure that you prevent making expensive mistakes. So today, who I have joining with me, we have Brittany Lyons. She is the owner and principal designer for Brittany Lyons Interiors, which is a boutique design firm located in Dallas, Texas. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hi.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. So I know I did like a little small like introduction of you, but I want you to go ahead and fully introduce yourself and talk about your company and what kind of services you provide. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, well, as Janelle mentioned, I'm Brittany Lyons and I own a boutique interior design firm in Dallas, Texas, but we service the whole DFW Metroplex and we really specialize in helping clients experience self-care through peaceful and functional design. So a lot of my projects really cater to creating spaces that help my clients relax and unwind. I am a firm believer in having a space that just nurtures rest and relaxation. Like you should be able to come home from a long day of work, from all the chaos that's going on in the world, and really be able to rest in your own home. So we help clients with what we call redesigns, where that's just like a furnishing and accessories project where we help them select all new furniture. We do renovations and remodels as well. We even assist clients with custom build projects, and we work with builders and developers too. So we are really about helping clients create the spaces that they want to live in, but also spaces that will live well with them and their families. So that's what we do.
Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness. So for today, today's topic, as far as art is concerned, we're going to
Mhm.
talk about actually putting it on your wall, which could,
Yes.
I mean,
Love that
that's kind
little
of like
piece
the,
here.
yeah, that's like the last step. So it's like, okay, we got to make sure this last step is right, right? And
Mhm.
quickly, like even before we get to putting it on your wall, oh my gosh. I want to talk about the importance of buying the correct size because I know from just even reading so many comments, people are like, oh no, I bought this piece, but I forgot to consider the sizing and now it's the wrong size. So I wanted you to go in and just talk about the importance of buying the right size and how that can affect, the look of your room, the wall, and just, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So it's very important to purchase the correct size art because it's all about scale and proportion, right? So in interior design, we are always making sure that we scale things properly to fit within a room. You don't want something to be too small because then it looks weird. You don't want something to be too big because it's not able to really serve you well because you have, something too big and it distracts you from really enjoying the space. In terms of artwork, it makes sense to proportion the piece that you purchase on that wall so that it is evenly distributed across the wall, and it's not like too small. You don't want to have, a 2 by 2 foot piece of artwork hanging on a 10-foot wall. You know what I'm saying? So it's really important just to for the professionals, everything needs to be scaled properly so that it looks like it was done on purpose. If you have a piece that's too big or too small, it might not give that same effect and it might not be as cohesive as you want it to be in your space. So it's really important to make sure that you purchase art that is proportionately scaled for your space. So that's the room that it's in, the height and width of the walls as well.
Yes, thank you so much for telling us that because I know when we go into it, sometimes we think about the colors and the style and the subject matter. Like, yeah, all that is important, of course, but I mean, if it's the wrong size, then forget about then forget
Right.
about it. So I'm so glad that you're able to
Exactly.
share with us like that. It's like would you say that's like the number one thing to like as far as everything is concerned? Like,
That would be your stepping point, I would
okay.
say. Size. First, you need to figure out what size
Mhm.
piece you're going to put there. And a really good tip that I tell all of my clients and I recently had a client who's an artist, and she was going to make a custom piece for her space. And we were talking about what size. And I said, I think you should do a 3x4 like piece max in the
Mhm.
space. She was like, really, I think I should do, whatever other size she was saying. And I was like, I think that might be too small, but let's tape it out on the wall. So we have blue painter's tape or green painter's tape or masking tape, a tape that you can visibly see, not duct tape, but something that easily comes off, and just measure out what you think would look proportioned. So start with some of the common sizes of artwork. So you have 24 by 24, that's a popular size. Going up from there, 24 by 36 or even 24 by 30. If you need something a little bit larger, there might be a 30 by 36 or a 36 by 48. There are also, on the kind of macro scale, I would say maybe a 48 by 72. That's pretty large. That's 4 feet by 6 feet on a wall. That's a pretty big piece of art. So start with some of those popular sizes, because they are going to be the ones that are most readily available. If you have to get a piece of artwork that is, 36 by 60, that might not be as common a size as a 36 by 48. So just take those measurements into consideration as you are choosing your artwork, but take that tape and tape it out. And you can tape out more than one size. So you can do like this piece right here is a 24 by 24. So you can tape that out. Then you could also do a 36 by 36. That's a square. Tape that out and see what works best. If a square looks better, if the wall is more square, then you might want to go with something more square. If the wall is more rectangle in the width and the height, you can go with something a little bit more rectangular in that space. But using blue tape to tape that out will really save you in the long run. I mean, a thing of tape is like $6-7, and opposed to a piece of art, which is hundreds, even thousands of dollars, depending on how much you're spending.
Yes, I'm so happy you brought that point up, because even when you put the blue tape in you're like mapping out where you want your art to go, would you say you should keep that tape up for like just a few days to see if that's really what you want? Because sometimes we might think we like something, but then like after living in that space for like a couple of days, like, I don't think I want this anymore. So do you suggest like putting up that tape to map it out and just kind of leaving it there for a few days to see if
I
to make
do.
sure you're sure?
I do. I would say at least a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, especially if a room has a lot of windows, like the lighting can kind of go into effect of how that piece looks there. So engineered lighting, which is electricity versus natural light, and really take into consideration, I would say at least 24 hours, and you can leave it up for a week if you are not sure after that amount of time, just to really kind of get a good feel for it.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So I wanted to talk about kind of like your mindset or your approach, because I know putting art in different rooms is going to be different. Like, you know, mapping out artwork for your living room might not be the same as far as your kitchen or your bedroom. So I wanted to ask you, is there just a different approach to map, like how to go about hanging art? Because every room has different furniture, just other things going on. So I wanted to ask, like, maybe like what should the process be? Are you like kind of looking at the room and seeing what's already there and then work from that? So I want to ask, like, what is like the process for mapping out where you should put art within a room? Does that question make sense, or should I?
Yeah, of course it makes sense.
Okay,
I think the process in terms of selecting an area to put the piece of art is the same,
Yes.
but of course the rooms will be different. So, I have a dining room with only 2 walls versus a living room with 3 walls versus a bedroom with 4 walls. So the process of saying, okay, where am I going to put this art? Do I want it to be on a focal wall? So is this something that I want to highlight? Or maybe is this going to be family photos, something that I want to be a little bit more private? I might not want everybody to see these pictures of my family when when they come into my house. So really asking a few questions when it comes to selecting the piece of art. The process is the same, but obviously if you have a wall that is larger, you can put more on there. If you have a wall that's smaller, you can't put as much on there. So it really kind of goes through the process of elimination by way of deductive reasoning, I guess, for making those selections. But if you have, say, a dining room wall and you want where you're going to put the artwork to be a focal point, or like a focal wall, you might want to get something with a little more interest, you know, something maybe with some colors, with some cool shapes. It could even be something representative, and it can be a conversation piece. I think all art is a conversation piece, but in terms of, you know, abstract versus representative, those are some things that you can ask yourself about when it comes to selecting a piece for that particular space. Like, what do I want this piece to do? How do I want it to function in this space? You know, in a living room, say if you have a lot of busy wallpaper going on in a space, you might want to put some artwork in there, but you might want the wallpaper to shine and not necessarily the artwork. You don't want them to compete with one another. So you might do a piece that's a little more subdued. You might have a piece that's a little more muted in tones and colors, something that complements that wallpaper that's in there, and let that shine, instead of like your eye being like, oh, artwork, oh, wallpaper.
Yeah,
you know,
like, I don't know where am I looking?
right. Where am I looking?
And you even mentioned earlier how your primary focus is to make a space that you're comfortable and you're peaceful. If it's too much going on, you can't. How are you going to be peaceful in a busy, crowded? It's going to feel crowded, if that makes sense. You're going to feel like, you know, too much going on. So I'm glad you mentioned that point. I know we spoke about the size being like a very common mistake, but I wanted to talk about other common mistakes that you see people make when it comes to hanging art on the wall, on your wall.
The number one thing, and this is hanging anything, art, TVs, is people hang them too high. People hang things too high. So there's a kind of a rule. If you have a piece and you're hanging on a wall, that it should be at eye level, which the center of the piece should be around 57 to 67 inches. Like the middle. So like the middle of this piece of art right here is probably hung at about 57 to 60 inches from the ground. Okay. So, of course, for taller people, they might be like, oh, that's too short, that's too low. But really it's that eye line for the average person. And we do design our homes for us to enjoy, but also when we have people come over, we don't want something to be like too high that they can't see. Like if this was a mirror and it was too high for someone who's shorter, then it won't be really effective for that person. So hanging artwork too high is the main thing I see. So guys, remember 57, I would say 57 to 67 inches. Keep it within that 10-inch range to make sure that it doesn't look weird. It just looks weird.
It's so funny because as soon as I learned that, every time I see it, I'm like, it bothers me now. Like, you can't unlearn it. Yeah, like even when I go in my mom's basement, I'm like, that is just, it's literally like an inch from the ceiling. I'm like, it's just like,
not an inch from the ceiling.
Once you guys know, you're gonna go around your house and start, you know, taking some things down, because even I did it. I definitely did it before. I definitely done it. So it's okay. It's okay. Now you know, so go ahead and bring it down to, you know, eye level.
Right.
Anything else that comes to your mind or at the moment?
And just making sure that it's centered on what, like if you're hanging it above your bed, center it on the bed. The bed should be centered on the wall. Like these are things that you think will be common sense, but I know sometimes we need a little bit of help with that. So I'm here to help you. Just make sure it's centered. Measure out the wall, the full width of your wall, divide that by 2. That's your center mark. And then you take that, whatever that number is, find the center of your piece of artwork. So same thing, what the width is, divide that by 2. And then you can take that measurement and subtract the width you got from your wall, or the width you got from your piece of art, So the wall width minus the art width. That's what it would be, like that divided by 2 thing. So that's how you make sure you have your piece of art hanging in the correct space. Another thing, this isn't really like a bad thing, I would say, but if you're going to have a piece of art that doesn't have a frame around it, I would go with a 1.5-inch gallery wrapped canvas opposed to like the little thin ones that you see. The thin ones can be framed easily. So if you're gonna frame it, definitely you could do a thin one. But if you're not gonna have it framed, select something that has at least 1.5 plus thickness. That way it kind of gives you that gallery feel and you're not having to pay the additional expense of having it framed.
Mhm. So I know we mentioned about the eye level height, and then you also talked about it being above furniture. So is there a difference? So if it's something's above a sofa, are you still following that same rule, or?
If it's something above a sofa, I would say generally 10 to 15 inches max above like where the top of the sofa, so the top, if the pillows go above the sofa base, then from the pillow. So whatever the highest point of that sofa is, I would do that. But again, center the piece of artwork or gallery wall, whatever you're arranging above the sofa, it just needs to be centered above the sofa.
You heard she said centered like 10 times.
Yes.
That
Needs
that
to be
pay
centered.
attention, centered. So I wanted to talk about because I know not everybody wants to like necessarily like, put holes in their wall as far as like hanging a frame, or maybe they live in a space that they're renting out and they just can't put holes in their walls. Do you know of any other way to hang art without, actually adding holes to your wall? Think they have like these command strips, or I'm
Mhm.
not sure. It's just vaguely familiar about ways to put art without holes. Do you know of any options?
So command strips, I would say, would be probably the number one thing, and not so they do have like the hooks that you can use. The only caveat to using command strips is you really need to use it on a surface that doesn't have texture.
Okay.
So if your walls have texture, this is not going to work. And that's honestly really the only option. I mean, they have hanging kits
Right. Yeah.
where they have nails that will be like very, very small. That could be an option. But the command strips do work if you have a thin, no textured surface to work with. And you also have to make sure that your piece of art like has enough room to actually put the command strip on the back of it. So that's another thing to consider, because if you don't have that room, then it can't properly adhere to the surface of your piece of art. So that's honestly the only way that I can think of, because most of the projects we work on, we don't have an issue with
But yeah, the holes. Yeah.
into the wall. So we just, use nails and screws depending on the size of the piece, how heavy it is, etc., to hang it up. But command strips, I've used that in one space and it has worked pretty well for the most part. But like again, on the textured walls, it doesn't hold up well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, and even I want to mention, like in hotter climates, because I've even tried it myself. It's like a putty that you can stick, at least for like certain types of art. But I'm just saying, I'll just let you guys know that if it's like really hot where you are, that adhesion, it might fall, because I know. So I'm just, just a little tidbit. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I will say the type of command strip
Yeah.
that I prefer is like the Velcro strips. So you get
Yes.
adhesive on one side, adhesive on the other side, and then they
Yes.
kind of Velcro together. So you have layers of
Yes.
adhesion.
And yeah, that's what I found. That's nothing I saw too, as far as an option.
Mhm.
Um, so I know obviously for you, you're very familiar with the term of a gallery wall, but not everybody really knows what that means or what that is. Because even in my mom's house, she just only has like single pieces of artwork, just kind of out, just single pieces. So I wanted you to kind of explain for people who don't even know what a gallery wall is, if you can
Mhm.
explain to them what a gallery wall is.
Okay, yeah. A gallery wall is a cluster of pieces in close proximity. I would say at least 3 pieces or more would be considered a gallery wall. So you can hang them all kind of in a straight line. I actually have a gallery wall above my sofa. I don't know if it probably looks dark over there. I would say I could show you, but it's 9 pieces. They are all symmetrically hung. So 3 on top, 3 on top, 3 on top, and then 3 rows aligned. They're all, centered and everything.
Centered. I was waiting for you to say centered.
Yes. But a gallery wall is just a cluster of artwork, family photos, quotes, whatever you want to put up, but something that's actually framed up on the wall and clustered in an arrangement, however you see fit, but at least 3 pieces or more. I don't think 2 pieces would be considered a gallery wall, but 3 or more. And then some people can do, depending on the wall space that they have, they can do up to 12 pieces or 16 pieces. So that would be my definition of a gallery wall.
I just wanted to introduce that concept because just to give you something else to work, just to give you another idea, just to just upgrade your space just a little bit. Because even if you made the mistake of getting the wrong piece, maybe it was too small, you can maybe add other smaller pieces to create a gallery wall. Yeah, so that way the overall look is proportionate to the wall. So just to give people options as far as how to go about maybe things that they've already bought that didn't work out, they can maybe find an arrangement to put in a gallery wall. And it doesn't have to be art, like it could be pictures, family photos. So
yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask about, what is your favorite arrangement? Do you have a favorite arrangement of how or does it depend? Or
I think it just depends, really. I'm just a lover of beautiful things. So whether it's one single piece like this one or a gallery wall, like, let me see if I can show you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's my gallery wall.
Oh my gosh, that is so cute. So I was not expecting that. That is, wow, that's bold and that's gorgeous. Wow.
There are mirrors in that too. So you can see like there are mirrors. But I would say the 9 would be considered the gallery wall. I wouldn't say the mirrors would be considered a part of the gallery wall, but it really is drawing the eye up. So that's a good way to use a gallery wall to take advantage of wall space. But whether it's clusters or a single piece, I just like it all.
Yeah. I know we spoke about so many different things today. So are there any just like last minute tips or advice that you wanted to discuss or anything like that?
The only thing I want to say is, if you can, try to support local artists. They are in our community. Like, you can find a local artist in just about every community that you're in. And if maybe not in your direct community, support another artist in another community but still somebody who's like a small business owner. And the reason why I say that, I'm a small business owner myself, so I know how hard it can be out here in these entrepreneur streets, but it really can take you to there's a little bit of pride, I think, that comes in being able to know who the artist is, knowing, what the piece is, like what the name of the piece is, what the inspiration was behind it. So like this piece, for example, is from an artist who's actually my friend. Her name is Roma Ashowo, and she's a local artist here in the DFW Metroplex. And this is a part of a collection, or she has this piece. This is a print. So this is not an original, but it looks really good. It's called Broken to Beautiful. And just knowing the story behind that and knowing who she is and how she creates her works of art is more meaningful than just going to like Home Goods or, some online shop like Amazon or Etsy. Well, Etsy is a little more personal too, I would say, but find a local artist to support, somebody where their face, you can find out their name, you can find out their story, and you can purchase a piece and support them in that way and have it hung in your home. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody has a different like mindset when it comes to art, but I just wanted to open up some minds that it does make a difference. Like you said, like you're in your home, you live there. So it's like, even when you're just like kind of just dazed out and you look up at the art that's on your wall, it does something for you. It'll change the way you feel, the way you are, the way you, like, even if you're like in a grumpy mood and you just look at like an art piece that you got from a local artist, and it might remind you of that person. It makes a difference. Just
Yeah,
it does help. Yeah.
makes a difference. It does.
Yeah.
Does. It really does. So that's my last thing that I can think of to say.
All right. So thank you so much, Brittany. I mean, we really appreciate your time and your commitment to being here and sharing your tips and advice. And I know you saved some people some money, especially with that blue tape trick. I
Yes.
think that's like golden. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
so please do it before you go out and buy expensive art that you cannot return.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm just so
I
happy that,
do it myself. I did it with this piece. I taped it out to
yeah.
see what was gonna work because I was gonna purchase a larger piece. And I
Mhm.
said, you know what? Now let me practice what I preach around here. So I did it myself
Yeah.
and I found out that the smaller size worked better. So
Yes, thank you. All right, everyone, that is all for today. I want to encourage you to also watch the other interviews so that way you can learn about the other parts of the art buying process. Thank you so much again, Brittany, and we'll see you guys later. Bye,
bye.
everybody.